Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. Been hearing footsteps every night for the past 3 weeks. This entire thing started nearly 3 weeks ago. I was in bed trying to fall asleep when I start to feel footsteps walk in the hallway right outside my room. Normally I would think this is my dad, so I brushed it off, but they didn't stop. I was able to hear each individual thump and felt the vibrations of the footsteps down at my feet. I can tell when my dad or someone is walking down the hallway, and based on the vibrations of their footsteps, I know who it is and if they're walking towards my room or not. So I'm hearing and feeling these footsteps, so I eventually got to sleep. Woke up, told my dad, and he didn't think much of it. Next night, nothing happened. Second night, the footsteps started again when I got in bed and was trying to fall asleep. This time I was trying to think of some reasoning or logic behind why this is happening. So I turned off my box fan. Footsteps still there. Is it my dog? No, she's in my room tonight sleeping. Could it be my heart pumping blood to my feet? Changed positions and even stood up. Nope, still there. Maybe AC unit or pipes in the house. But the pipes and AC and water heater all have an individual sound, which I know what they sound like. This, however, sounded exactly like someone walking up and down the hallway, pacing back and forth constantly. The first couple of nights I was absolutely panicking like crazy when this all was happening. Threw the blanket over my head and could feel my heart beating as loud as the one in Edgar Allan's poem. A week went by and every night it was the same thing. I'd get in bed and moments later or half an hour later I hear footsteps and feel the vibrations in my bed. This thing is pacing back and forth, jumping up and down, running, going up the stairs, but it never came inside my room. More days go by and it starts to become a nuisance rather than scary. I just wanted to sleep was all, but skid got real when 2 nights ago when I got in bed it entered my room, which it had never done before. It was running, making loud thumps on the floor, even pacing back and forth right in front of my bed. Now I was scared. I believe at one point it even tried getting in my bed. I jumped and ran TF out of there. Later that night, I tried to sleep with the lights on, fan on full blast, and tried to sleep with the headband type thing. But nope, it still continued. Of course, couldn't see anything with the lights on, cause nothing is even there. I tried a couple tests. I found out if I leave my fan on, this entity will go nuts and won't shut the hell up. But as soon as I turn fan off and try to pull out my video recorder on my phone, it goes almost silent. I can still slightly hear it, but my phone can't. The other test is that I learned that if I'm sleeping and I just ignored it, it'll just walk away. But it was weird cause every time I would move or change positions in my bed, it would run back up to my bed and then eventually walk away again. I told my dad this the next morning and he said this is not normal. You may have ghosts or demons following you or Satan teasing you. Then he suggested I made a doctor appointment, so that's what I did. I set one up for Monday because this issue is now out of control. My siblings believe I have schizophrenia because auditory hallucinations is a symptom. But this is not a hallucination because they're as real as anyone else walking down the hallway and I can feel the footsteps with my own feet. I don't think schizophrenia could do that. I'm out of ideas and I desperately need help. I pray and pray and pray, but these footsteps continue. Does anyone have any suggestions? Anyone experienced this before and maybe know how to stop this? Thank you everyone. Thank you Notal2IO, the author. Skinwalker encounter in Yosemite. This experience I'm going to describe has taken a while for me to get together and actually write down. I have experienced a few paranormal things, but this is the craziest one of all of them. It takes place in Yosemite National Park in August of 2017 with my 2 best friends, Zach and Andrew. Zach had worked that summer as a parking agent at Glacier Point and was pretty familiar with the area. His employee housing he was given was a house in Wawona with 2 other guys. Andrew and I were visiting for the week and had each been in Yosemite before. One of the nights there, we decided to watch the sunset over Chinwalna Falls. It was a great hike that Zach had done before. The trail was about 4 miles to the top with about 2,000 feet elevation gain. We brought food and decided to hike up and take a swim and eat at the pools on top of the falls. We set out a couple of hours before sunset. As we approached to the top portion, we were about half mile to the top of the falls where a guy, about our age, early 20s, ran up to us from bushes frantically asking for help. His friend had fallen 50 feet off a cliff and had a shattered femur. Zach was used to this. After working in the park all summer, he had seen many injuries and was used to it. The man didn't have cell reception, but I did, so I called 911 and reported the accident. requesting search and rescue. After a few minutes, we decided we wanted to continue the hike after search and rescue assured us they would be there soon with the helicopter. We told the guy help was on its way, and we continued the next half-mile up to the top of the falls. When we got up there, it was a picture-perfect scene. A beautiful sunset as we swam and ate. We then got an amazing show as we saw the helicopter land to pick up the injured guy we just encountered right below us. I'm a private pilot and Air Force aviator, so I loved every second of watching the helicopter land on the mountainside. After the sunset, we began the hike down and passed the spot with the injured guy, and search and rescue was taking care of him. We had a brief encounter with them. They thanked us for calling it in. It was now dark out and we continued the hike down. There wasn't much moonlight, it was pretty dark, so we used our phones as flashlights to see the trail. This is where the story gets interesting. The top of the hike was switchbacks with a steep incline on the right and a steep decline on the left with shrubs and trees. It was definitely too steep to hike down, hence the switchbacks. About 1 mile into the hike down, Zach was in the front with the light. I was second also shining my light, and Andrew was in the back. Zach was shining his light ahead and saw something sticking out from behind a tree that was about 15 feet ahead, just off to the right of the path, and instinctively shined the light at it. That's when whatever it was exposed itself from the tree and ran across the path, down to the left and down the steep grade. It ran on 2 feet and resembled some sort of humanoid. It was a little shorter than us and very clearly had 2 arms and 2 legs, but it moved in an inhuman way. It kinda resembled a person. It had a head and its limbs, but appeared to be just skin, no clothes on at all. We all 3 saw it and stopped dead in our tracks. We continued shining the light to where it ran, down the left side of the mountain, but didn't see anything after it ran down. We were absolutely terrified, none of us really knowing what to say because we had no idea what we saw. The worst part was that we had another 3-mile hike down and 1.5 miles from the trailhead to Zach's house, all while knowing that this creature could be stalking us and was near. Luckily, we made it to his house terrified and exhausted, but without harm. Whatever it was, must have been just as scared of us as we were at it. My question is, if anyone else has had a similar experience in that area. I've done some research and my best guess would be a skinwalker, but they didn't try to lure us into the forest with it. We had a subsequent experience a couple years later in Tioga Pass, right outside of the Tioga gate of the park. We were camping in a closed campground in Tioga. In the middle of the night, I woke up to piss, and before exiting the tent, I saw an orb about 5 feet from the tent, floating across with a bright light. I don't think it was a person because Zach, Andrew and I all saw the orb floating across and there wasn't anyone around us. Our friend Jackson was also in the tent and in the morning told us he felt rocks getting thrown at the tent all night, along with hearing footsteps near all night. Does anyone have similar experiences? I'd love to hear them. We all know what we saw and we know that it was not human. Thank you Nils11, the author. The house I grew up in is definitely haunted. Being a lurker in this subreddit for a while and wanted to share a story about my parents' house. This story begins before I was born, my dad told me this. So my parents moved into an old country-like house. My sister at the time was only about 4. She would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and go into my mom and dad's room to get into their bed. However, some nights my dad would wake up and see a little girl in Victorian clothes, which were all white, at the bottom of the bed. He would get confused and think it was my sister and he would say, "Are you okay?" and then blink and the little girl would be gone. He said this happened maybe at least 10 times, but he wasn't afraid. My parents then renovated their bedroom and once they did that, my dad said he never seen the little girl again. When he told me this story, I'm not going to lie, I didn't believe him and thought he was just trying to freak me out. Now, here's a strange thing. Fast forward, I'm 21 or 22 at the time, still living at home. My sister had moved out and it's just me and my parents living there. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, was over and we were chilling out watching Netflix or something and I wanted to go get a drink. All bedrooms are upstairs in the house, by the way. So I went to get a drink and some snacks for me and wife. I paused the movie and went downstairs, leaving my wife alone in my room. My room faces the stairs and I had left the door open. So my wife is on her phone or whatever, waiting on me to come back, and she looks around and what does she see? A small girl in white Victorian clothes looking down the stairs. She was startled and she said as soon as she see her, she was gone. I came back up the stairs and we continued to watch the movie. I didn't know anything happened because she never told me until a few months ago. I'm now 30 and moved out. She didn't want to tell me when I lived there because she didn't want to freak me out. She never knew my dad's story when she told me her story. So I told her what he had seen. I'm not going to lie, that house always had a strange vibe, but hearing two stories like that just freaks me out. I just wanted to tell you all my story. I'm sorry if it's written poorly, it's my first time really writing a long enough story on Reddit. Thanks for listening, folks. Thank you, Andydoogan, the author. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you already haven't, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any new episodes. See you again soon, and until then, please, be safe.